In my humble opinion, in the context of a romantic relationship, and strictly a romantic relationship, I'm not talking about career or anything else, a woman is never going to be truly fulfilled by that relationship unless she's able to fully submit, fully surrender to her man. And that surrender and that submission indicates a total trust. Now, I know the words submit and surrender get a really bad rep, but they are actually quite beneficial to the individual if the authority, if the entity that is being submitted to is loving and caring. And I'm going to use an example here. Whenever we pray to God, we are submitting and we are surrendering. Whenever we ask God for help, whenever we surrender to God, whenever we say, well, God, I trust you. And again, God, you can substitute that word with the force, the way, the Tao, however you want to look at it. If you're a Christian, whenever you submit to Jesus, whenever you surrender to Jesus, you're actually acting in your feminine energy, because feminine energy is yielding, it's soft, it's yielding, it's surrendering. You can see this in every aspect of nature. The easy example that comes to my mind is the way the vagina is shaped. It's yielding, it's receiving, it's soft, it's surrendering, right? Whereas the penis is assertive, it's going out there, right? So whenever you're actually surrendering and saying, Jesus, I trust you, I submit to you, or say, I submit, God, I submit to your will, or I trust the force, I am a Jedi, I am a servant of the force, I live to serve the force. Well, guess what? You're surrendering your will, you're surrendering your personal self identity, saying, I am part of the force, I am a servant of the force. So given that entity is loving and caring, then that submission and that surrender is actually a prerequisite for the kingdom of heaven that Jesus speaks of. So Jesus says, unless ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is a state of trust in God, a state of trust in the force, a state of trust in the universe. And you have to go inside and access your feminine energy to be able to do that. The feminine is submissive, submissive, right? The masculine is assertive. And so we all have, both energies inside of us. But whenever we are in a romantic relationship, for a relationship to be healthy and fulfilling, there must be polarization in it, meaning one particular person must take on must be the primary holder of the masculine energy, and one person must be the primary holder of the feminine energy. And you can take this and apply it to any type of relationship, whether it's straight or homosexual or whatever it is. There must be always, for a relationship to be spicy, fulfilling, one must be the primary holder of the masculine energy, one must be the primary holder of the feminine energy. Therefore, in the context of speaking about women in this case, a woman, ideally anyway, should be, ideally, the primary holder in a man-woman relationship should be the primary holder of the feminine energy. And the man is the primary holder of the masculine energy. The man's got a penis, it's assertive, he's got more testosterone. Testosterone makes the man more assertive, more outgoing, you see? And so, yeah, so in order for a woman to be truly fulfilled, in my humble opinion, she must be able to surrender and submit to her man, trust him fully. That's a sign of she trusts him fully. In the same way that when we humans surrender to God, we trust God fully. When we surrender to apply whoever is your favorite, I don't know, deity or God or definition of a higher power, you must be able to and you have to access your feminine energy to do that. You see? So don't mistake that for, again, I just want to really emphasize that. I want to really emphasize that entity must be loving and caring, because if that entity that you are submitting or surrendering to is evil or is egotistical or is selfish, that is a very naive thing to do, in the same way that a child gets seduced, let's say, by by a charming man, for instance. They charm that child, and then they end up, you know, committing pedophilic crimes with them. That's, see, the child is naive, is not able to discern if that entity is loving and caring, or if that entity is selfish and destructive. So that's the prerequisite, you see. So now for the men watching, you know, I know there's a lot of people right now in the Western world complaining, and rightfully so, complaining about the how women in general are too masculine in this Western modern world. And by the way, it's true. There is a neutralization process of the genders by certain forces, and so I know that. But first of all, instead of demanding that a woman be more feminine, and demanding that a woman be more, more feminine, more surrendering, more submissive, right? More trusting of you. Why don't you first really work on being loving and caring? Because if you're going into looking for a relationship and you're selfish, and you're always like me first, and you're not actually cultivating a compassionate, loving, caring heart, you are in no position to demand of a woman to be more feminine and more submissive. You've got to always embody the qualities that you want to see in others. You've got to always embody, you always take care of what you have to embody first. So we know it takes two to tango. We know that if a woman really wants, for her own sake of happiness, by the way, in a relationship, we know that she must be able to surrender, to trust her man, to submit to him. But we also know that that man must be loving, caring, and compassionate. So why don't you focus on that part? And if you truly focus on that part, and you cultivate a loving, caring, compassionate heart, not just with all beings, obviously if you cultivate that with all beings, and when you do find your dream woman, you will be able to channel so much of that compassion to her. Why don't you take care of that first? Right? Why don't you take care of that? Why don't you, as Jesus would say, remove the dust from your eyes first? Why don't you, like, whoa, recognize, like, hey, I'm really selfish. Like, man, like, when you truly face yourself, you realize there's so much dust. Like, I realized through being in a relationship now for 2 years, I realized really just how selfish I am. Really, I'll just admit it. I'll just say it out loud, straight out. Like, there is so much selfishness in me that I wasn't aware of, despite me, you know, for all these years, cultivating compassion, cultivating heart, cultivating, you know, caring, and all these good qualities. But then I came in and got into a relationship, which I never got in a relationship before, a long-term relationship where I'm living with someone else. And I realized, wow, I am selfish. And I'm currently working with this prayer, you know, God, dear God, thank you for purifying me of all selfish desires, because I got so many of them. All right, so even if you think you cultivated in all these things, if, you know, relationships will really, really expose you. It will really expose your flaws. All right, they really will expose your flaws. So as a man, you take care of that first, instead of being all demanding, and she must be submissive. Oh, Western woman. Ugh, you know. Instead of being a complainer, act in a problem-solving manner, and just be like, hey, I do know that for me to have someone that can fully submit and surrender and trust me, I myself must be a very loving and caring individual, you know, and then from that point, I will be able to attract a submissive, feminine woman that is able to surrender and submit to me. Okay? In a way, a man does act in the same way that God acts as a figure of authority, you know. This is why, like, people are crazy about holy scriptures, because they're supposed to be the word of God, or Jesus, or Krishna, because they are a figure of authority. They're giving us wisdom, they're giving us truth, they're giving us love, they're giving us inspiration. But again, that figure of authority is very loving and caring. So in a way, a man in the healthiest form and a woman in the healthiest form, in strictly speaking, by the way, I'm not speaking about careers and all that. Strictly in a romantic relationship. See, a woman can be out there in the world, masculine, doing her thing, asserting herself, right? But in a relationship, whether she knows it or not, admits it or not, she wants to submit and surrender, and just have the masculine, her masculine man take care of her, right? I'd like to bring Miranda to talk to you guys more about this, but you know, she knows all too well about that. You know, if you're in touch with your feminine energy, these things become very obvious to you. And I will bring her. We have some videos together planned. So, but what was I saying here? Yes, in the same way, a man does act as a figure of authority for a woman in an ideal, healthy relationship. Okay, so you know, he's the king. At the end of the day, he makes the decisions. You see, king, queen. The queen is sort of, you know, you can consult the queen. She has this beautiful feminine energy. If she sees the king's heart is a little bit too hard, she can soften that. But the king makes the decisions at the end of the day. All right? So take care of yourself, men. Take care of yourself first. Don't be complaining. Don't be like calling men. Don't have a sense of entitlement. Oh, you know, you must surrender and submit to me. Are you loving and caring? Are you compassionate? Are you showing these qualities? And even if you think you are, wait until you get in a relationship. Unless you've like really dug deep and cultivated it, it's all gonna get exposed. All right? If you like this video, hit the like button right now. It takes you like a second. Hit it, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.